From Birth to Healing, A Child's Journey with an Anorectal Malformation by Wang and Shahrzad Joharifard. Adele and Deng were overjoyed to welcome their first child. Adele's mother stayed close and helped her daughter through the birth. But by the next day, Adele knew that something was wrong. Her son began to vomit. At first, he vomited milk. Then his belly became big and the vomit turned green. He stopped feeding. At first he cried and cried, but by the next night he had become weak and quiet. The next morning, Adele traveled many kilometers with her baby to reach the hospital. At the hospital, doctors examined the baby. They found that he had been born with an anorectal malformation. This meant that his bottom had not formed in the usual way, and stool could not leave his body normally. The surgeon sat with Adele and showed her a drawing. She explained what a baby's bottom usually looks like and how her baby's bottom was different. The surgeon explained that children can be born with different kinds of anorectal malformations. In some children, there is no opening for stool. In others, stool comes out through a small opening in the wrong place. The surgeon explained that Adele's baby needed an operation. The operation would make a stoma, an opening on the belly where stool could leave the body. Later, another operation could make a new anus. The next day, the nurses took the baby to the operation theater. Adele waited outside. They gave the baby medicine so that he would sleep and feel no pain. Then, the surgeon made the stoma. After the operation, the baby had a tube in his hand to give him sugar water and medicine, a tube in his nose to empty his stomach, and a tube through his penis into his bladder to drain his pee. Slowly, stool began to come out through the stoma, and his belly became soft. After a few days, the nurses removed the tube from his nose, and he was able to breastfeed again. After Adele learned how to care for the stoma, she and her baby returned home. At first, she had stoma bags to collect the stool. When the bags ran out, she used cloth instead. A few months later, Adele received news from the hospital. A surgeon was coming to perform the next operation. Adele took her child back to the hospital. At the hospital, Adele found many other mothers and children born with anorectal malformations. Adele saw that she and her child were not alone. The surgeon sat with the families and showed them drawings. She explained that not every child with an anorectal malformation has the same problem. She showed them what different malformations can look like from the outside, and what they can look like inside the body. A few days later, it was Adele's son's turn. He returned to the operation theater for his second operation. This time, the surgeon brought the bowel down and made a new anus in the correct place. After the operation, the doctors and nurses showed Adele how to protect the new anus while it healed. They showed her how to position her child and how to keep the area clean. The child once again had a tube draining pee from his bladder. Adele was told that this tube must stay in place until the doctor said it was safe to remove it. A few weeks later, it was time to start dilations. The surgeon explained that as the new anus healed, it could become too narrow. Dilations would help keep it open. Adele was worried that she might hurt her child. The surgeon showed her the dilator and carefully taught her how to use it. Adele watched and learned. At first, the baby cried, and sometimes there was a small amount of blood. But with time, the dilations became easier. Adele returned home and continued them exactly as she had been taught. A few months later, Adele returned to the hospital. Before the final operation, the surgeon checked the new anus. She made sure that it had healed well and had not become too narrow. Then it was time for the last operation. The surgeon closed the stoma. Now, stool could pass through the bowel and leave the body through the child's new anus. The child stayed in the hospital while he recovered. When he was feeding well and his wound had healed, Adele said goodbye to the friends she had made and began the long journey home. Adele reached her village as the sun began to sink in the sky. She and her child had traveled a long road, from sickness and fear, through 3 operations, to growing stronger and passing stool through his new anus. The journey from birth to healing had brought them home.